Thanks everybody for joining us for an all-new episode of the New England Spartan Show, and the theme tonight is definitely new. We've got a new format. I'm riding solo as Sandy and Paul are traveling this week. We go around the OCR industry and look at what's new from Spartan Race, Tough Mudder, Bone Frog, and more. And the most exciting part, we hear from our new sponsor and give away some nice new swag to a lucky listener. Let's get on with the show. All right, welcome everybody to episode 77 of the Any Spartan Show podcast. Now, it has been just a little bit since we've recorded. Things tend to get busy this time of year. Paul's traveling a ton, and Sandy's traveling, and I felt like it was time to do a podcast because there's been a ton of news here. So we're going to try something a little bit new this time around. So doing things differently tonight, first and foremost, you're only going to be hearing my voice. So I'm recording solo for the first time, so this is going to be a bit of a unique test, and hopefully Paul and Sandy can come back and save me, and I don't have to do this every single time because I got way too many screens in front of me right now. So because I'm rolling solo tonight, we are broadcasting this live again on the Any Spartans Instagram page and the Any Spartans Facebook page, and if you do not already follow those, although I can't imagine you wouldn't follow them if you're listening to the show, go ahead and give them a follow, and I promise you there will be a reward in it for you very soon. Now, before we get started on a multitude of different topics that we have to talk about tonight, we're going to try something a little different, something we haven't done before, besides just having me host this. We're going to hear from our first ever sponsor. That's right, you heard it here first. We have partnered up with a company that I think most of you know, and most of you probably love. And I'm a huge supporter of them, and I'm lucky enough to be on their team for both the 2017 and 2018 season. That company is Mudgear, and Mudgear is doing something this October that I wanted to take some time out to promote a little bit and talk about, and then we're going to hear from one of the Mudgear athletes in a moment here. So before we get into the nitty-gritty of the episode, I wanted to tee this up first. So we're going to hear from them, and then stay tuned later in the episode. We have a giveaway sponsored by Mudgear that I'm super excited for. But let's take a listen to Ryan Kent, Team Mudgear Athlete 2018, talk about what's happening this October.
Hey guys, it's Spartan Pro Team member Ryan Kent. You may know me on social as Drop the Hammer or any of the many man bun nicknames that have been thrown my way, but one of the coolest names I get to hear is when my nieces call me Uncle Ryan. Those cuties, along with my sisters, my mom, and of course my girl Sarah, mean the world to me. That's why Breast Cancer Awareness Month is more than a mantra. Early detection saves lives. So to help spread the word, I'm rocking Mudgear's pink compressions for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Of course they're styling all year long, but if you buy yours in October from mudgear.com, 100% of the profit goes to the National Breast Cancer Foundation. So think pink in October and get yours at mudgear.com.
So again, super excited that Mudgear has offered us the opportunity to host a giveaway and then obviously promote such a great cause for them. And in October, any of the pink Mudgear socks that are purchased, 100% of the profits go towards breast cancer awareness. So I'll give you more of the details on the giveaway, so stay tuned for that. But what I want to get into here is just a whole host of topics that have been released these last couple of weeks. So last weekend, Spartan had their 2018 World Championship in Lake Tahoe for the fourth year in a row. And I made some predictions, as I normally do. I try and make some predictions on all these races just to kind of keep myself interested and watch some of the live feeds. If you don't follow the Spartan athletes and the elite runners, I'll just give you a quick rundown of my predictions. So originally I picked Ryan Atkins to win, John Albin in second, Robert Killian in third, and I called Ryan Woods the bubble boy. Now I transposed those first two from the results. So John Albin actually ended up coming in and winning, and Ryan Atkins, ever the bridesmaid, never the bride, finished in second place at Lake Tahoe. Killian was third, so I was right on that one at least. And Ryan Woods was also fourth, so I nailed those. Yes, that's me humbly patting myself on the back. For the women, it was totally different. Lindsay Webster finished first. I had her picked first, and I don't think anybody was picking against Lindsay this year. I had originally picked Zuzana second, and then I think I did Faye third, and Rhea fourth, and the women was not quite as accurate. So, but I want to talk a little bit about kind of the event, the coverage, all of the extra stuff that went along with it. So, first and foremost, Tahoe this year was set up to be incredibly spectator friendly and incredibly live feed friendly, which I loved. Obviously, I was not out there running, but you want to jump in and you want to see the events that are happening during these live feeds. And not only do you want to see what's happening, but you want to be interested the entire time. Most people, I think, will jump on and watch a live feed, maybe watch for 20, 30 seconds, lose interest, and then jump off from that point. I think they designed the course, this year to not only be competitive for the runners, but also be effective where they can film it and then promote it in the future. So I don't think we really talked about this on a previous episode because I don't think it had been announced yet, but the ESPN broadcast of the Spartan Race just a couple weeks ago, I think, was one of the better televised OCR events that were out there. And if we're going to continue televising the events, and it seems like it's going to be a continuing thing that they're going to do as these events come up, you've got to make these courses much more spectator friendly. You've got to make it easier to film the athletes. And Spartan's done a great job this year of finding ways to film, finding ways to get camera people on course and get them running with the competitors out there. So you're seeing all the action, whether they're coming over the obstacles, coming through the finish line, or they're just running through trails. You're going to have something, you're going to have something for everybody for when they're watching. Leading up to the event, though, there was also great coverage the days before. So they had the press conference, I believe, the night before, just talking to the major athletes, right? You had talking to Amelia, talking to Killian, talking to Atkins and Webster. So a lot of good coverage leading up to the event that just kind of helped build the hype and talk about it. And then a lot of great coverage on Sunday for the team event. And I think the team event for the Spartan World Championships, and also when you look at the team event for the OCR World Championships, it's probably one of the more exciting events because you've got camaraderie between the teammates that are out there. You've got competition, right? U.S. versus Canada in this case. There were a whole bunch of other countries, but in reality, the podium chase was U.S. versus Canada. But it was great for them to kind of have everything set up so that it's available to be broadcast live, available for folks to jump in and get good, quick looks at the competition. And they have a great new TV host, and nothing against the hosts that were on there previously, but having a professional broadcaster come in and take over the role as the primary broadcaster of the event, I think is going to yield huge rewards for them. And we'll look forward to seeing how it turns out. And Tom on the live feed just shouted out that a lot of the venues this year are designed to be spectator friendly and filming friendly. And I think, you're spot on with that. And I think the great thing about that is it's good for the audience. It's good for the people that come to the race that may not be racing. And it's the perfect way to generate, more excitement about the sport itself. A couple other things they did new this year. They had a fashion show, which is pretty interesting. I don't know if anybody caught any of that, but Spartan announced several weeks ago, or maybe a couple months ago at this point, their partnership with Craft Sportswear to design and roll out all new Spartan gear, from the finisher shirts to workout gear to OCR shoes that'll be coming in 2019. So Spartan's Craft gear was on display, and we've seen a handful of venue t-shirts being designed by Craft this year, but it sounds like all the finisher shirts are going to be designed by Craft, co-branded with their other major sponsor, Rakuten, who is the headline sponsor for the World Championships. So big year coming up for Spartan. We'll see what the changes look like, and we've already seen a ton of good stuff in the form of season passes being released. They had an elite season pass for $1,000, which is the same price it was last year. They had an age group season pass, which was $799, and then they had an open season pass, which is $599, which I believe was $100 less than what it was the year before. So people are jumping all over that. Spartan followed up that announcement by saying they're going to release twice as many season passes, or 1,000 more season passes than they did last year. So more opportunities for folks to get in, whether they're running open, whether they're running age group, or they're running elite. And then right around that same time, they released the schedule for 2019. Not the full schedule, but at least the largest list that we've seen of upcoming races. And Spartan essentially is looking to have over 100 events, at least in the U.S., and then another, I think, 12 to 15 in Canada. And if you're Canadian and you happen to be watching, the Canadian season pass is on sale as well right now, much cheaper than the U.S. season pass, but far less races, of course. So along with the schedule, we saw Spartan break down the upcoming year by region, and they have different races broken down into the Mid-Atlantic region, in New England, obviously, Central, the Desert region. So they sent out individual schedules for each region, just so folks have an easier look at what's available in their area, what's available for a quick drive. If you don't have a opportunity to get to several Spartan races, then chances are you're probably living in Alaska at this point. I don't even know if they have an Alaska Spartan race. And they didn't stop there. The announcements from Spartan have been coming fast and furious. So the newest one that they just put out last night, and I think this is probably their biggest news of the year so far, and I promise this will probably be the last Spartan race update, unless they put something else out. So last night they released information about the 2019 season. So the first thing, and I think this one is long overdue and was not at all unexpected, is they are breaking up the 30 to 39 age group and the 40 to 49 age group from one single 10-year clump into two 5-year clumps. And so that means 30 to 34 is their own age group, 35 to 39 is their own age group, 40 to 44, and then 45 to 49. And I think early in the year when they released age group competitions in 2018, that was the first thing that everybody had griped about. It was immediately a 39-year-old is not going to compete against a 31-year-old. And that rang true for me because I'm now 38 years old. One, I don't train enough to compete against 31-year-olds, but in reality, even if I did train enough for it, the ability for me to compete against a 31-year-old being in the same age group is just not feasible, and it's not manageable from a Spartan mindset. So breaking up those age groups, I think, is a huge move to get people back into the age group and competitive waves, maybe getting people out of elite that were running elite because they had no real desire to run age group because they know there was probably no chance that they were going to beat somebody that's 8-9 years their younger. But that was the first part of it, and I think that's a huge move. They're going to make qualifications for the big races easier, they say. We didn't hear many details on that, but this year's qualification for both regional championships and North American championships and world championships were far too complicated and convoluted. So the goal in 2019 is to make those easier to understand, easier to qualify, and then certainly in this case, now that there's a few more age groups involved, competition is going to be fast and furious and hopefully a little easier to manage. Take a company like OCR World Championships. They've got a relatively complicated qualification process. They're managing 20, 30, 40 different race series and qualifications across those. But I think the way they publish it and the way that they have it available on their website, it's far easier for people to just pull up qualification records, figure out where they want to qualify, go race, and know almost immediately whether they can actually finish right then and there. So, ton of big news from Spartan. I didn't even talk about the new obstacles that they're announcing. So they came out and said that they're going to announce, or they announced 6 new obstacles in 2019. Now, they gave us a little bit of a teaser in the form of names for the obstacles. So the first one was called, the second one was called the Beater, but that's the first one I thought of. And it looks like we might have actually seen this obstacle. We saw a video of it from a Malaysia Spartan race, and essentially it was a monkey bar rig with a spinning, I don't even know how to describe it. It looks like the old egg beaters or cake batter beaters that we had when we were kids, the ones you used to stick your tongue on to lick the cake batter off of. But one of those in the middle that spins, kind of an American Ninja Warrior style. So you have to grab this spinning egg beater style thing and swing over to it. Now, we're assuming that's it. We don't know for sure. So we're kind of going off speculation. When I heard the description of it, when Mike Morris, Spartan from the Inside on Instagram, was talking about the obstacle itself, he was talking grip strength, he was talking form. So I was thinking more like, not American Ninja Warrior, American Gladiators. They had an obstacle called the hand truck, and people on the live feed can see me, and obviously you can't see this on the podcast, but you had to essentially row your way down this, this long traverse to get from one section to the other. So I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see. The other obstacle they talked about was one called the Helix, and that kind of stems off of DNA. If you know anything about the Helix structure, it's essentially take a ladder and spin both ends of it, and then you've got a helix. So who knows what that one's going to be, and then what the 4 others are going to be as well. But interested to see at least what the obstacles will be. And what I find interesting and a little bit funny is Joe came out earlier this year and was asked, when are we going to do new obstacles? And companies like Tough Mudder are going out announcing new obstacles all the time. And Joe took the standpoint of saying, we're not in the business to just continue making new obstacles every year. We don't want to have these new obstacles out every year, or forced to be thinking about throwing out new obstacles just for the sake of throwing new obstacles out. And then you hear the audience, the Spartan Racer audience out there say, we want new obstacles, we want new obstacles. So what Joe is thinking and what the average racer is thinking are on 2 totally different levels, which is not surprising if you know anything about Joe DeSena. But they answered, right? They listened. Hey, Matt. They listened to the folks that were asking about, they want more age groups, they want more obstacles, right? They want people to be competitive, and they answered so far. So ultimately, it's been all good news from the Spartan folks this year. The one bad news piece that has popped up is if you've registered for any 2019 races, something they're sliding under the line in the registration process is they're now including a fee in certain events that is bulleted as having a parking fee, bag check fee, and what's the other piece? A merchandise discount. So here's for instance, I registered for Jersey 2019 just a couple days ago, and included in that was a $6 fee. So I had to pay my $15 or $14 insurance. I had to pay this $6 fee, and that included parking, bag check, and the chance to get a merchandise discount, which, as Spartan explains it on Facebook, is simply going to be a merchandise coupon card or code that's going to be in your registration packet. Now, I'm all for prepaying parking if it's a venue that I'm going to park at, and I'm all for prepaying bag check if I'm going to use bag check. If I'm not going to use bag check, or I'm carpooling, why should I have to pay those fees? And why should you be sneaking it kind of under the line in registration and dropping it on us at the very end instead of, telling us up front what we're going to be paying for? So a little bit of animosity from the crowd on that, but I think one thing for me when it comes to getting to a venue, I don't want to wait in line for parking. So if I can prepay my parking, I will do that every single time. And if you give me a checkbox option when I register, I will hands down prepay for parking all the time. So that way I can just get into the parking lot, get out of my car, drop my gear at bag check if I need to. So making that more efficient is great, but making everybody pay for it, whether they're going to use it or not, to be decided on how I feel about that. So ton of Spartan news out there. World Championships this past weekend, which was huge. Big 2019 announcements with the schedule. Kraft as the partner for the gear in 2019. We didn't even talk about things like redesigning the stadium races with all new branded coloring and possible medals and things like that. So there's a ton of stuff that's out there on the Spartan side of business. So enough about Spartan. Let's talk about something else. And again, if you're listening on the live feed, shoot me a question. Let me know if you want to hear me talk about anything else, but I'm going to go right back to my bullets and my agenda here and keep on going. Next up, Bone Frog Challenge. I just happened to pull up Bone Frog's webpage, Facebook page today and see. So they announced in email, it was probably later last week, that they are getting into the multi-race reward business in the form of what they're calling the Bone Frog Trident. So if you're not aware of what a trident is, it's a 3-pronged spear. Aquaman flings it around a ton. But essentially the trident is Bone Frog's equivalent of the trifecta. So Bone Frog, as of today, has 3 different race styles already. They have the sprint, which is their short form course, ranging generally at about 3 miles. They have the challenge, which is a 6 to 9 mile course. And then they have tier 1, which is their endurance event, which is essentially the 6-mile challenge course followed by multiple laps of the 3-mile sprint course. So what Bone Frog Challenge has done is decided that they're going to design what they're calling the Bone Frog Trident, and it is this pretty hefty. I don't know if this is a one-piece metal or if it's multiple metals that Voltron their way into one giant trident. But essentially, you're going to have all three metals underneath this large, multi-pronged, trifecta-style Voltron metal. I can't stop saying Voltron, I guess. So they just released the image of it. If you haven't had a chance to see it, you can visit the Any Spartan's Facebook page. We have it pictured there. But it's a pretty intense-looking metal if you haven't had a chance to see it. It's also a pretty dangerous-looking metal if you happen to take a dive on your way out the parking lot wearing this thing around your neck. You might end up needing that insurance that you pay for before the race. So if you don't have a chance to get to multiple Bone Frogs this year, you do actually still have a chance to get the Trident or earn the Trident by doing all three events on a single day, if it's possible. I don't know if it's possible. So it should be pretty interesting to see the first looks at this once we get a physical piece of it. So I know Matt Davis over at Obstacle Racing Media was interviewing John White, and I use quotes because I don't think that's actually his name, but who is the head honcho in charge of Bone Frog Challenge. So I'm sure they answered a ton of questions in regards to it. So if you need some more questions answered, go over to Obstacle Racing Media's Facebook page and check out the video of Matt and John talking about it. So next up, who do we cover next? Let's talk about Tough Mudder. So Tough Mudder had a rough 2018, and it's only October now, but their 2018 struggles have been widely publicized. Started the year by announcing that instead of doing 10-mile courses, Tough Mudder was going to do double loops of 5-mile courses, which was immediately met with objections and folks that were just not happy about the announcement, and confusion around the course and logistics on how you were going to run around folks that were on their first lap versus folks that were on their second lap of Tough Mudder. So, not to mention, they also canceled a few events. One of them was canceled for weather. One of them was canceled probably just due to lack of, I want to say subscriptions, but registrations. So Tough Mudder announced that they are rolling out what they're calling Tough Mudder Classic. And I pulled up the website, and I'm probably going to read a little bit verbatim here, but Tough Mudder Classic has arrived. And what they say is, we're pulling out all the stops for this return to our badass roots, making 2019 a season to remember. And I think what they really mean by that statement is, we're taking back 2018, and we're doing a redo on it. So Tough Mudder Classic is one 8 to 10 mile loop of mud-soaked mayhem loaded with 25 best-in-class obstacles. And here's the big piece, the important piece that they announced as well. They're going to include 10 new or updated obstacles in 2019 on every single course. So that means we could see a handful of brand new obstacles, and I haven't seen any of them teased yet, so I'm not aware of what they're looking like. Or we could just see updated or enhanced existing obstacles that are out there as well. So if you have not, I'm going to break into my own broadcast here. Zach Nair asks on the live feed, does this mean they're getting rid of the Tough Mudder half? And as far as the branding goes, Zach, it sounds that way. I don't know that they're going to offer all of these multiple events, because they had previously in 2018, they had, I say previously in 2018 as if we're out of the year already, but right now they offer Tough Mudder Full, Tough Mudder Half, Tough Mudder 5K. Then you have the competitive waves, Tougher Mudder, Toughest Mudder, World's Toughest Mudder. Let's just say that they have broken into far too many tangents as of right now. But it sounds like Classic is going to be the one 8 to 10 mile loop. And if I go and register, and I won't go through it because it doesn't make for very good podcasting as I try and navigate a website while I'm not saying anything. But one thing that they've done, and one objection to Tough Mudder that I've always heard, especially from the Spartan crowd or the crowd of folks that are running traditional OCRs, Tough Mudder is too expensive. $129, $150. So what they're doing is, for a limited time, and you don't have a ton of time, it goes until October 11th, so hopefully the episode gets out tomorrow, or today if you're listening on the 11th. But they're offering folks entries to Tough Mudder Classics for $99. So essentially, you're going to buy a coupon, you're going to pick your event later. So you're going to pay, register $99, and then you pick the event once they release the larger list of scheduled events. Now, Nikki asks on Facebook, and I already forgot what you asked, Nikki, but King of Swingers for Tough Mudder. And I think we've talked about King of Swingers previously, and if you're not familiar with it, King of Swingers is essentially a giant platform with a huge metal grip handle that you swing off of out to hit a bell that's probably suspended 15 to 20 feet in the air. And the last we saw King of Swingers, at least in New England, was 2017, I believe, maybe even 2016. I don't remember when my Loudon Tough Mudder was. But we've not seen King of Swingers at an event in quite some time. Now, it's a big build. There's a ton of materials involved in the build. There's digging involved with it. There's added medical and folks to, 2016. Thanks, Russ at OCR Buddy, correcting me on Instagram. Appreciate it. But there's a ton of added cost involved. So it seems to me what Tough Mudder is doing essentially is consolidating all of these individual events that they've broken out to offer. And hopefully that consolidation affords them a little bit of savings in terms of money, and then lets them bring back some of these big premier obstacles. Because for me, King of Swingers was an obstacle that I wanted to conquer after 2016, not even be able to climb the ladder to get the top of it, but slowly working my way up to beating it. It was definitely an obstacle that I wanted to take on, and them not having it in 2017 and now 2018 has caused me pause. I'm not going to say it's the main reason that I wasn't going to compete in a Tough Mudder, but not having those huge builds and those massive obstacles that you can conquer played into it. I think it's one of those things where people go to a Tough Mudder event for different reasons than folks go to Spartan Race events. And we can go all day long, which one's better or which one's got a better experience and whatnot. But Tough Mudder is more about camaraderie and experience, right? It's not about physically murdering yourself. It's not about completing obstacles and doing burpees if you can't. What it's about essentially is getting out on a course, getting yourself uncomfortable and putting yourself in uncomfortable positions, meeting amazing people. I think the Tough Mudder camaraderie and the Tough Mudder on-course experience is better than any other out there. And it's also about, just enjoying the day, and at the end of the day, celebrating with friends, having a beer in the festival area. And one thing they mentioned with the announcement as well is a whole change to the party scene for Mudder Village, and they're talking about adding live entertainment, authentic local eats, and if I have to take a guess, that probably means food trucks, lawn games like giant beer pong. One of the best things for me with Tough Mudder was hanging out in that festival area after it was done. And they set up electroshock therapy right at the festival area. So you can sit there, kick back with your beer, and watch people electrocute themselves, for lack of a better term, crash into the mud and then cross the finish line and celebrate with their headbands and their T-shirts and their beards. So 2019 proves to be a pretty big year for Tough Mudder as well. And I think a defining year for Tough Mudder. So you've got, coming up in a couple weeks, you've got World's Toughest Mudder, which is debuting in Atlanta for the very first time in November. And Atlanta in November could be just a million different weather pieces. It could be freezing there. You could have snow on the ground. You could have certainly frost on the ground. You could have 85-degree weather and humidity overnight. So no idea what to expect for World's Toughest Mudder this year. But if anything, there's a ton of good coverage that they offer on Facebook, so we'll certainly be watching it. And I'm going to cut in from a question from Mr. Dave Bond here, and Dave asks, when is Spartan going to start highlighting and featuring 50-plus, 50-year-old athletes? And I'll tell you, Dave, I think the answer to that is either, one, when Ryan Atkins or Robert Killian hit 50, and they have no choice but to cover them, or when you get out there and start winning podiums at 63 years old, maybe 64. I'm probably going to get one of those wrong, I'm sure. But there was also, going back to Spartan for a second, there was also a ton of talk about breaking up the 50-plus into a 50-plus and then a 60-plus age group, or bringing back the Masters age group in some sense of the word. And I think we'll see that happen, I think, as folks age into the brackets. And I think when you look at how many competitors there are at most events, you're not seeing a ton of 60-plus-year-olds out there. And again, Dave, that's your chance to land on the podium. We're only seeing a handful of 60-plus-year-old athletes, and we're seeing some 50-plus out there. And I think my friends in the gray berets will probably give me crap for saying this, but the 50-year-old age bracket's not necessarily the most competitive out there, at least in the Spartan world. When you get into things like obstacle course racing world championships coming up in a week and change over in London, I think the 50-plus group there is far more competitive. You've got race directors like Hubie Cushman in there competing, so hopefully we'll see the results of that from the OCR World Championships coming up soon. So, Tough Mudder 2019, big defining year. Certainly hope to see more from them. I think as far as PR goes and as far as the flow of information goes right now, Spartan Race has dominated the news over the course of the last 2 weeks, and I think as Tough Mudder comes up to their premier event this year, they've got an opportunity to start spreading the word of what Tough Mudder's doing in 2019 to help get people coming back to their race, and certainly offering an affordable option is the first step to make sure that they're going to get some new blood and then get the folks returning that have maybe questioned where Tough Mudder's going in the past. So, let's talk about another race. Let's talk about Terrain Race. And for our friends here in New England, probably not the most familiar with Terrain Race because they haven't been around here a ton. The last couple of years they've made their way up here. But Terrain Race is known for a couple things. And unfortunately, those things that they're known for are not necessarily the most positive things out there. So Terrain Race is a short-form course. They've got typically a 5K course distance, so a couple miles. They've got the typical obstacles. They've got monkey bars. They've got heavy carries. They do them in industrial areas where you've got stairs and climbs involved. They do something unique. If you've never seen Terrain Race's starting line, they actually start you in a pool of water. So you're waist deep in this pool of water, or if you're me, you're like knee deep. And they fire the gun or say go, and you jump out of the pool of water, and you're off on the course. So you are essentially from the waist down, covered in water from the start of this race, and presumably probably for the majority of the race. Now, Terrain Race has not got the best reputation nationwide, not just here in New England, but one thing that they seem to not deliver on is the ability to get photos to racers. And if you're like me, the one thing that you fiend for when a race is over is your official race photos. There's been a ton of reports and a ton of posts on their Facebook page that folks are not seeing photos from the events. The other thing that they're not seeing, this sounds like a no-brainer, but is the results. A ton of folks, again, posting on Terrain Race's Facebook page are saying that they are not seeing results either posted at all, or the results that they have that they either kept timing themselves personally is far different, and their ratings and rankings are far different than what Terrain is saying they placed at. Yes, Nikki, chest deep for you in the water, knee deep for me. So I have a distinct advantage there, and I'm sorry. So Terrain Race has, they have some issues right off the get-go in terms of reputation. But in the interest of reforming and coming out in 2019 and competing against the likes of Spartan and Savage Race and Tough Mudder, they've brought on a whole new staff, and I'll call out one of those folks individually that we are all certainly familiar with, Dustin DeRue, who is resident MC / Captain America cosplayer / overall classy and handsome gentleman. Dustin has joined the Terrain Race team and has promised that they are looking at all aspects of their race to improve come 2019. So they're going to look at logistics, they're going to look at executing on timing more effectively, they're going to make sure that they get photos to you in a more timely fashion, and the other thing that's come up, and this is certainly a big area of controversy, is obstacle safety. And we take a lot of this for granted because we are lucky enough to have big name events out there that have a lot to lose if something goes wrong with their obstacles. So while we've seen things happen in the past with Warrior Dash and obstacles collapsing, or even incidents involving people passing away by diving into water that's too shallow or diving into water and not coming up. Terrain race does not have the best reputation when it comes to obstacles, and there is actually a history of some of their obstacles failing or breaking and causing injuries. So when it comes to racing, terrain race, I've never competed in one of their events. So normally I wouldn't consider registering for an event myself. So they went and did something a little different. They are offering completely free registrations for their 2019 events. Now here's what's unique about this. They announced free registrations in September. And on some random Wednesday in September, it was like the 24th or 25th or something like that, it said, one day only, sign up for terrain race, it's free, all 2019 races. And we did, or we saw that it was free, and then we checked back the next day. Oh, free registration's been extended until Friday, September 29th. Friday, September 29th comes and goes. I wake up the next morning, I check terrainrace.com, and wouldn't you know it, the free registration for terrain race is now extended until October 5th. So long story short, the date is October 10th as I record this. It's 10:33 p.m., and terrain race is still free. So they do have a new investor, which means they probably have some influx of money, but I don't understand how they're going to put on a quality event when they are essentially giving away, not essentially, they are giving away the race itself. So I went back before recording the episode tonight, and I looked at the New England event. And when you go through registration, one of the things that Terrain Race does is they kind of nickel and dime you for things. There's add-ons, $5 for VIP access to this, or $20 to get, an extra T-shirt, or a Angry Monkey, that's their logo, an Angry Monkey water bottle or whatever. I'm just throwing things out there. So they're in there to get added revenue. And again, I'll throw back to my buddy Matt Davis at Obstacle Racing Media, did a great article about how Terrain Race is the Spirit Airlines of obstacle course racing. And if you're familiar with Spirit Airlines, their goal is to offer you a super cheap, inexpensive flight, but then charge you an arm and a leg for everything else, whether it's VIP access to get on the plane first, to charging you for your first carry-on bag, to charging you more if you print out I can't even think of the name, a ticket at the ticket window when you arrive at the airport. So Tom on the live feed again brings up a good point. How is Terrain Race going to put on a quality event with no revenue? And what I've heard essentially, and this is, a little bit anecdotal, but essentially I've heard that the influx of money and hopefully the new audience that they're bringing in by offering a free race is going to obviously generate revenue on site, whether it's parking, gear that you're buying from Terrain Race, paying for extra laps, whatever it may be. But if you haven't signed up for Terrain Race, let's be honest, it's a free race, and you're going to pay $14 or $15 for insurance at the end of the day. And if Terrain Race folds in 2019 and the race never happens, I'm out $15. To me, it's worth the opportunity to try it. And if there is going to be a new competitor in the space, then I'm all for supporting them. I'll be honest, Terrain Race's prices are normally $30 to $60 for registration. I'm probably not going to pay $30 to $60 for a race that has not proven that they can deliver efficient results, not proven that they can deliver official photos afterwards, and not proven that they can deliver me a safe experience. I'm not going to show up at a race for $30 or $60 with the chance that I can injure myself. It's just not going to happen. So give it to me free, and that's a quick way to change my mind and a quick way to change most racers' minds, I think. So it's going to be interesting to see, one, how many people they pull at the event. Now, at last check, when I go into terrainrace.com, I look at the team that the NE Spartans have formed, and we've jumped all over it. We've got like 125 people currently registered with our team, and there's a whole host of teams in there. So I'm going to take a rough guess and say they've got well over 500 people already pre-registered for the event in Massachusetts. And that's, for a small race series, that's a good audience. You'd obviously probably want to see those numbers pushed to 1,000 or 1,500 if you want to call it a real success. But that's a good audience. I will say that if the race happens and I get out of there safely without breaking anything, at least because of their obstacles and not mine, then I'd consider it a success. And I would hope that Terrain Race can take all these registrations that they're getting, deliver an experience, and turn some folks around and turn some opinions around, and take that and grow with it, expand. Right, once you gain that loyal customer base, who knows where you can go from there? But hopefully, they've got the wherewithal to understand what the impact is when you're going to give your race away free. You still have to deliver. It doesn't mean ultimately that you can just half-ass a race and we'll just write it off because it was free. If it's a crappy race and it's free, I'm not going to go again. It doesn't matter to me. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. If it's a free race and it sucks, do you go back again? If they offer it to you either free or at a deep discount, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. So, ton of news for the day. I'm going to wrap up here shortly, but I want to just kind of summarize what we talked about. So, Spartan Race, Fast and Furious on their news for 2019. We've not heard where the 2019 World Championship is going to be, but if you checked out my Instagram TV page, I did a quick video on it. FitAid released a story saying that they were giving away they were doing a contest with some giveaways, and one of the things that they were giving away is entry into the 2019 Spartan Race World Championship in Tahoe. So I don't know if that was a typing error or if that was a spoiler for where it's going to be in 2019, but we haven't heard anything, so I guess we'll see. And just going back to the live feed for a second, Becky Parslow says, terrain was not the best, but still pretty fun this last year in Lancaster. Drawbacks were I didn't see any photographers, and again, that's a huge complaint. One employee was peeling out, I thought that said peeing for a second, was peeling out in the dirt and spraying people with dirt and rocks. That's pretty classy. And can say that some of the merch was mildew and moldy from getting wet and packed up at prior events. So that's from a competitor at this year's terrain race in New England. So again, it's buyer beware, but it's a free race. So I guess you gotta take the good with the bad. Last piece I want to talk about is OCR World Championships coming up in just under 10 days. So next Thursday night kicks off the first international occurrence of the Obstacle Course Racing World Championships. And I'd be remiss if I didn't at least talk about it, because if you know me, you know that I'm a huge loyal follower of Adrian and team in their event. And I am skipping this year, sadly. Cost-wise and time-wise, it was just more than I could stand to pay to get to a race. And even though it's a top-notch, first-class experience, complete opposite of what you would expect from a terrain race. Cost-wise, it was just a little prohibitive. And that's me. I don't mean to go on a pity party here, but I think I'll take the opportunity to enjoy watching the coverage from home while I get back to training. But I'm going to have some serious FOMO, I'm sure, as I see folks finishing and posting shots of their medals. And if you haven't had a chance to see the medals, at OCRWC on Instagram, the medals are absolute top-notch, as they always are. But a couple things for this year. They are looking to push upwards of 100 obstacles at the course this year, and that's something we've never seen at any event. And even if you take World's Toughest Mudder and combine 20 obstacles on the 20 different laps you're doing, you're still seeing the same obstacles over and over and over again. So I can't wait to see all of the obstacles throughout the day. And the great thing about this event is, we were talking about Spartan televising their championship series earlier. OCRWC, if you hadn't seen it, is announcing that they're going to televise their event internationally, starting in the UK, and then hopefully making its way over to the US. I haven't heard if there's any guarantees that it'll make it here, but I'm hoping that Adrian and team can pull some strings, and if they don't get it broadcast here on TV, maybe they can get us some links to somewhere being posted on the web. So for any of you that are heading out to the World Championship, one, expect obviously a world-class event, and I'm sure you know that, and I'm sure the folks that are going have been to a couple in the past. If this is your first event, go enjoy it, soak it all in, and hopefully come back with some amazing stories and a belly full of tea and crumpets and bangers and mash. And that was probably the most stereotypical thing to say about London food that I possibly could say. So So I'm going to wrap up tonight by giving something away, and I think that's what everybody probably stuck around to hear about. So earlier in the episode, we talked about our newest sponsor, Mudgear, and how Mudgear this year is releasing for October, which is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, some of their pink Mudgear socks. And if you haven't had a chance to see them, at Mudgear on Instagram, go check them out. They are donating 100% of the profit from all pink compression socks sold at mudgear.com to the National Breast Cancer Foundation. So we here at the Andy Spartan Show, or me here tonight, we're going to give away 2 pairs of Mudgear's pink compression socks. Now, folks that are watching on the live stream are going to get a little bit of a head start here, so all I'm asking is to go to the Andy Spartan Show Facebook page, give it a like, give it a share if you're so inclined. But go to the page, give it a like, and leave us a review. Leave us a review either on the Facebook page or on iTunes or whatever podcast platform you listen to. And we will pick from this episode, and we're going to be doing another episode in 2 weeks right before the end of the month. We will pick one lucky winner from each episode, and we will DM you. And I'm going to pick this week's winner on Monday. So for folks that are listening to this episode, go to the Facebook page, The NE Spartan Show. Give it a like, give it a share if you're so inclined, and please do give it a review on iTunes. That's not a requirement for the contest. I'm just asking if you haven't had a chance to review the show. I would love that you do it. I'm going to hope to bring this back and do some more regular episodes, either once a week or once every 2 weeks. But get yourself a chance to win some pink Mudgear socks, and thanks to the folks over at Mudgear for donating the socks, and they'll be sending it out to the winner. Tom, on the live feed, has already said he's done it, so Tom already has a leg up on all of you guys. So that's it for the show this week. I'll give you a quick insight as to what's coming up for me personally, and then I'd love to hear from you guys and what you've got coming up. It is mid-October. In a couple weeks, we have the New Jersey Super down in Jersey, so I'll be there for that one, and hopefully we'll see a good chunk of the team and a handful of you out there. I believe that's the 27th or something like that. So we'll be at the Jersey Super. Following shortly thereafter, in November, we've got the Fenway Sprint coming up, November 10th and 11th. So I'll be there both days for that. We can see, we'll see you there for those. And then the Long Island Sprint, which I haven't talked about and I haven't seen kind of highly publicized, but for the first time, Spartan is bringing a sprint to Long Island in November, so I'm probably going to make my way over to that. But there's some interesting events coming up, and maybe we can talk a little bit about these on the next episode. But Spartan Race has an event in Pittsburgh that is running into some logistical issues, so they've got a short course that they're doing some multiple laps on in order to get to sprint and super distances because of a last-minute venue switch. They have... Our friend Russ Blatt at OCR Buddy says the Long Island Sprint is 4 miles from his house. So, Russ, I'm coming to crash on your couch. Spartan also announced a Trail Series event so that they're going to do with their Virginia race this weekend. So just a simple Trail Series run that they are hosting. So we're hoping to talk a little bit more about that once we can find somebody who competed in it. And then you've got World's Toughest Mudder coming up in November as well. So a ton of stuff coming up towards the end of the year. Spartans promised news every week until the end of the year with new announcements. So leave us a message in the comments here from the show. Let us know what races you're going to be at. Let us know what you want to talk about on the next episode. But for now, my name is Josh, signing off in solo form this week, and we'll talk to you guys next time.